Alright, so continuing with our short stories by Akatagawa Ryunosuke. I think I said that name right. That first name is really hard. Dragon's Son. So in my last video I went over the Heian period stories, and this one is the stories that take place in the Edo period, or Tokugawa shogunate period. So there's only 3 short stories. The first one is called Dr. Ogata Ryosai Memorandum, and this one is a short story about a doctor who has this woman entreating him to look at her daughter who is very ill. However, this woman is a Christian, and in the early Tokugawa period, Christianity is not being Christian is not a crime. Well, it's kind of a crime. Being Christian is bad. Is a bad thing. So since she's a Christian, he will not help her or her daughter, and she keeps coming back to him and begging him to look at her daughter who's dying. And he says, look, you are a Christian woman, your Christian God can help you. The only way I'll help you is if you renounce your Christian God. If you do that, then I will help you. And she's like, I can't, my immortal soul is in danger, blah blah blah. And finally she does. She renounces Christianity, and he rushes out to the daughter, looks at the daughter, and is like, she's got hours to live, there's nothing I can do. And of course that just destroys the mother. However, a couple days later, the doctor gets word that something's happening in the town, so he goes to the town, and there is a group of Christians, some of them the sort of Portuguese Catholic, like non-Japanese people, and they're all surrounding the woman performing some sort of rite. And on the woman's shoulders is the daughter who has come back to life and is clutching her mother. And it sort of ends there. The doctor's account ends there, sort of revealing that sort of this miracle happened. And yeah, so that one was kind of interesting. It's sort of showing how Christianity was looked down upon and persecuted in the early Edo period. But also the author's showing that kind of there is something to that Christianity, that miracles can happen. So that's the first story. The second story is called Ojin, and it's about this girl Ojin who her family came from Osaka. They came from Osaka, yeah, and traveled to Kyushu, where and they were not Christian at all. But when they get to Kyushu, they contract a disease and die, leaving the daughter alone, and the daughter is then adopted by a Christian family and raised Christian. And so they're Christians in the early Edo period, and they're being persecuted. So they are captured, rounded up, because on Christmas they're openly celebrating the Christian festival of Christianity, of the Nativity. And so they get caught, they get rounded up and taken to and put on pyres where they're going to be burned alive. And the sort of magistrate or whatever offers them a reprieve, saying, abandon your Christian God and your Christian ways, and you're free to go, otherwise we're going to burn you to death. And the mother and father, the adoptive mother and father, are like, we'll be strong, we'll see each other in paradise, we'll die for our faith. And the little girl wavers and says, you know what, no, I renounce my faith. And the mother and father are shocked. They're like, well, how could you do this? She said, well, I can see beyond these pine trees is the grave of my birth parents, and I know they're not Christian, so I don't want to go to paradise and live in eternity apart from them who are in hell. And so she gets down from the pyre and starts weeping, because it's not just easy for her to give up her religion. But then the adoptive mother and father are sort of still going to go with it, but then the wife, the mother, starts to also waver. And in the end, they all give in and all renounce their Christianity. And sort of, it's said that the devil was at play there, celebrating, while these people sort of renounced their faith at the cost of their immortal souls for the price of their lives. And so that was another story about Christianity in the early Edo period, and sort of the things that people had to go through. And kind of the fickleness of human nature. Yeah, it was interesting. The third and final short story in this section is called Loyalty. Now, this one doesn't have anything to do with Christianity. It's a bit later on in the Tokugawa period. We have a sort of a minor lord who is a part of this noble house, and the sort of main branch of the house, the Great Lord, has put this guy, this retainer, sort of not in charge of the minor house, because the minor lord of the minor house is in charge, but puts this guy as sort of just to look over things and to make sure everything's okay. However, the lord of this minor house is he's kind of sick. He's going a bit mad, and so the elder who has been put in charge of looking after this place is thinking, in terms of loyalty, not to the lord but to the house instead. And he's thinking, in order to preserve this house, we need to get rid of this lord and bring another one in, just to preserve the house. And so he sort of plans to, or his plans get out, and so the lord, who's kind of crazy, threatens to kill this guy, and so he leaves with his family. And so another guy is put in charge, not in charge, but to sort of look after the house. And he sort of sees the same issues, but he is much more loyal to the individual lord rather than to the house. And so when the Great Lord tells this guy, do not let your minor lord, do not let him out of the house. He's a danger to himself and others, because he's like going kind of crazy, and he could do something disrespectful and bring shame on the house or whatever. So he promises, I will not let him out. But of course, the minor lord, he really wants to go to the castle for some reason. He's beseeching this guy, please let me go to the castle, please let me go. And the retainer finally lets in. He's like, even though I'll have to commit honorable suicide because I'm breaking the rules, I will let you go. And so this guy goes to the castle, where he murders a very great lord. And he was crazy, and he was muttering crazy things and seeing things, but there was some speculation that he would actually wanted to kill his cousin, the sort of the great lord of the same household. But for whatever reason, he just killed a person. And so the retainer who let him out of the house had to be strangled to death. And nothing really good came of it. But that whole thing was just sort of looking at loyalty, and looking at whether it's better to be loyal to an individual, even if they're insane, or better to be loyal to the household as a whole, and sort of the whole system. And loyalty to a system or a conglomerate versus loyalty to an individual that could be flawed. So that was the Tokugawa period ones. I don't think any of them were as great or as enjoyable as the ones from the Heian period, but they were still pretty good, and there was only 3 of them. So next we will look at short stories from the modern period.